Public hearing tonight to hear consideration for our 2020 budget and also a proposed tax increase. If you'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll get started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for coming to our meeting tonight. Prior to opening the public hearing tonight, the County Commission will first take the opportunity to answer some questions that were raised at the public hearing in November. After doing so, we will proceed with instructions on how the public hearing will proceed. So here's some questions that we're trying to answer for you tonight, realizing that some of these things are much more detailed and involved than can be put in just a few words. The first is the actual amount of the increase of tax is 733%, not 833%. In other words, the amount collected through the Municipal Service Fund tax will be 7.3 times higher than the amount currently collected. Please remember that this is the only portion of the property tax that is being raised. The total tax increase for a person whose primary residence is in Carbon County will be 16.92% as a total amount of your entire tax. While we acknowledge that this is significant, it is simply not true that anyone's total tax bill is being increased by 7 times. Thus, someone who pays $500 in property taxes each year would experience an increase of $84.60. And someone with $1,000 tax would see an increase of $169.20. Someone who pays $1,500 in property taxes each year would experience an increase of $253.80. And $2,000 would add an increase of $338.40. This increase means that people residing in the county will now be paying nearly the same amount of municipal services that people in the cities will be paying. Hopefully that gives you some sense of what kind of burden the taxpayers will be asked to carry. Persons with recreational property or other secondary properties that are not their primary residence will have a higher total tax bill because the state legislature does not grant a 45% deduction in taxes to those other properties. It is the state legislature that limits the residential tax deduction to primary residences, not the County Commission. Be assured that this tax increase does not take away the greenbelt status of any properties. As of this year, the Municipal Service Fund collects only $300,000 total. This will put the increase will put it at $2.5 million, but it really requires $6.8 million to run the municipal services of the county. We will continue to seek ways to decrease spending, making up this shortfall of $800,000 that we're still short. We also reiterate that the county is not planning new capital expenditures or expanding employment in the county. The next question that was asked many times was about the Schofield area. Contrary to what was reported, the county does provide services in the Schofield area. In the event of emergency, the public should know that the Sheriff's Office will most definitely respond to the remote areas of the county, including Schofield and 9 Mile. The Sheriff's Office regularly sends patrols to the Schofield area and the 9 Mile Canyon area. The county has also agreements with cities and other agencies that can provide immediate assistance if a sheriff's deputy is not in the area. For example, the Division of Natural Resource Officer stationed at Schofield can respond to emergency if the sheriff is not available. In the event of fire, a response is made by all agencies who can respond. Helper Fire Department immediately responds to any call that is made with respect to fire in the Schofield area pursuant to a contract that the county has with Helper City. The county pays significant amounts of money to have Helper Fire Department and other fire agencies respond to emergencies in the Schofield area. The amounts of taxes collected by all of the Schofield area that comes to the county, including the cabin subdivisions around the lake shore, Aspen Cove, Schofield Mountain Homes Estates, Mountain Home Subdivision, and Schofield Town, with others, the total amount that comes to the county through their taxes is $339,137. Among the municipal services provided in the Schofield area are snow removal and grading and maintenance of mountain roads and garbage removal. The county paid $110,000 to provide these three municipal type services in the Pleasant Valley area just last year. The total amount collected from the Municipal Services Fund for all buildings in the Schofield area alone is just $24,000, which is not enough to pay for the services we already provide. Of course, other municipal services are provided to the Schofield area, as well as fire and police services, as mentioned above. Additionally, the county spends approximately $19,300 a year maintaining the over-the-air television service for the Schofield area alone. Item number 4. As soon as a county elected official, this has to do with the idea that elected officials or anyone else receives lifetime benefits after they leave office. As soon as a county elected official is no longer working for the county stops paying for his health insurance. No further contributions are made by the county toward the county officer's pension. A county officer hired prior to 2013 will receive a pension based on the number of years that he worked for the county. County officers hired after 2013 do not receive a pension, but receive a contribution into the county employee 401 account. Commissioners' benefits do not differ from the benefits paid to any other employee. Casey, will you take the other? There's some.
Yep. The next question was what the effects of cutting additional services. As a commission, we have considered whether or not we should cut services that are not mandated to be performed by statute. Some of these include senior center services and county recreation program. We feel as a commission that in order to attract new growth and businesses to our county, we need to be able to provide a high quality of life. We feel that it is important that we continue to operate and fund recreational programs throughout the county. Number 6, privatizing. There was some questions about privatizing some of the county services. The county has explored privatizing certain services and will continue to do so. The county's explored this option with respect to the gun range, animal control, and the ambulance. But at this point, we have determined that any cost savings will be minimal at best, and we cannot guarantee the level of service provided would not drastically decrease. Some county departments, such as building and planning department, generate enough in fees and costs to be close to being self-sustaining. The ambulance is another one of those that the revenues generated through transports and other services actually pays for itself, and at some points brings a little money to the general fund. There are some questions around animal control. We have looked at it. We've also tried to privatize the racetrack. A few years ago, we had a contract with a group, and it didn't go so well. We're not saying that it can't be done, but we're still looking at those for options. There was some concerns about sale of surplus property. Contrary to the claims made at the public hearing, the county does not sell surplus real property without first giving public notice and giving notice of its intent to sell the property. For example, the county is currently seeking to divest itself of the property at the corner of First South and Carbon Avenue, where the former senior center was. The county is currently running a request for proposals seeking to find a use of the property that fits the community. The county is looking at all possible parcels of property that it does not need and that can be sold and possibly contribute to the economic development of the county. The county has surveyed several surplus parcels in the industrial park that it will try to market during the next year in hopes of bringing in additional economic development, while at the same time relieving the county of the burden of undeeded properties. We wish to reiterate that the county is required to raise its tax rate to maintain current budget levels. Whenever there is a loss in taxable property, such as when centrally assessed property values decrease or the legislature makes certain centrally assessed property tax exempt from taxation, but when revenues from centrally assessed taxes decrease, the deficit must be made up from the properties. For example, when Carbon Power Plant went down, the county lost $100 million in taxable property. By law, the shortfall then had to be made up by existing businesses and residents. It's a shift, a lot that we've all seen. Not that the county receives any additional funding, but because they have lowered their taxes or we lost the power plant, everybody else picks that up so that the budget that the county, the school district, and all the taxing entities remains close to the same. Additionally, it is reported that once the health department moved, it should have an additional $5 million at its disposal. The health department is a separate entity, and its money was never used by the county, and Cheryl and I had talked about that. So that was money that was not ours. They were under the county umbrella for auditing purpose, and when the state mandated that they move out from underneath the auditing umbrella, the money moved with them. So that was never county's money. It was also mentioned that the year-end balance shown in the audit showed a surplus. However, the year-end balance shown in the audit is a snapshot as to that particular time and does not reflect the total revenues and expenses. The amount shown in the audit at the end of the year will always be high because it is shortly after property taxes are received. The amount, however, approximates the total revenue that will be available for spending over the next 12 months. We also face a shortfall of $1.7 million in unpaid property taxes. If paid, that would greatly alleviate the county's financial situation.
There's a few positive things here. The public should know that much has been done and is being done to maintain the community to see our economic growth continues. Now that the soccer fields are completed, the county has hosted several soccer tournaments that have brought over 80 out-of-town teams to the county in the past several years. Another example of economic success story is the Holiday Inn Express that was enticed to come and build in the town because it was able to retain a tax increment that comes from being an economic development area. That property soon will be taxed again at the regular rate. Additionally, the Economic Council, which is a coalition of local business leaders, city officials, county employees, has done much to promote the Carbon County and attract and publicize business investments here in our community. Recently, Intermountain Electronics made a commitment to expand its business here in town and will be adding many new jobs. SME Steel, Price River Terminal are just a few of the newer businesses that are slated to come online as soon as well. For all other efforts that you as a community make to welcome and support these new businesses, and to these new businesses as well, we thank you.
Commissioners,
Christian, you want to take the next one?
I just take a moment to talk about a couple of items. Last time there was an audit that was prepared in 2010 that was referenced, and the point was emphasized incorrectly that the audit suggested that a municipal services fund is not necessary. But in fact, the 2010 audit performed by the state stated that counties that charge a dedicated municipal services fund property tax are better able to demonstrate that fees and services are appropriately matched for county residents. It stated counties with dedicated MSF property taxes are able to more clearly determine that revenues for their municipal services fund are derived from people who live in the unincorporated areas of that county. In fact, it praised Carbon County specifically for having a municipal services fund and stated, Carbon County can demonstrate that municipal services revenues come from people in the unincorporated parts of the county and that the purchased services go to the same people. That audit also listed several uses of the funds and noted that the use of the funds such as for things such as road maintenance, emergency services, animal control, building inspection, planning and zoning, public lands use, and sheriff's office use were all, quote, services listed that are all statutorily allowed. The audit found that Carbon County was the only county properly accounting for its provision of municipal services through its municipal services fund. Should be noted that the Municipal Services Fund does not subsidize other budgetary funds. It's used to pay for those specific amounts that are, in fact, municipal services. And so to the extent anybody would suggest that the audit recommends dispensing with the Municipal Services Fund tax, that's an exact contradiction and incorrect portrayal of what that audit actually suggested. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Now we'll give some time to our Sheriff, Jeff Wood.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm always happy to hear that the public's getting involved in the government process and assisting our elected officials in solving the issues in the community. I feel it's a huge benefit to the community so long as they're working with our elected officials and not in spite of them. I'm happy to have an opportunity to respond to some questions raised in the commission meeting on November 20th about the Sheriff's Office budget. One point that was raised was the cost to operate the Sheriff's Office budget for the last year, and it was brought up that she would like to see the call logs to determine if there was actually that much money spent to serve the citizens. Well, first off, I'd encourage folks to become more educated in the inner operations of the Sheriff's Office, and want to point out that none of the folks with comments have reached out to myself nor any of my staff to ask any questions about our day-to-day operations of the Sheriff's Office. The second most important is that the Sheriff's Office operates 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and we do not get paid per call nor citation issued, nor do I feel this is an effective way to enforce the law in our community. We're available to respond to any situation that occurs with minimal resources. There are 12 deputies that comprise 2 crews that handle the patrol portion of the Sheriff's Office needs. These crews are comprised of a sergeant and 5 patrol deputies. They work 4 10-hour shifts, and the schedule generally works out that one crew is on duty while the other crew is off or in training. The schedule is prepared 3 months in advance, and each officer must complete 40 hours of police training each year to maintain their law enforcement certification. Occasionally, we have a double crew day in which both crews are working. On these days, we step up our patrols to the hard-to-reach areas such as Schofield, 9 Mile, Bruin, those areas. It also should be known that our patrol deputies rely on our allied agencies for support on calls where more than one deputy is necessary for safety purposes and for the best service to the community, and we return the favor whenever needed. This is an answer to a statement of getting deputies out of the cities, and I feel that the give and take is equal and necessary both ways to maintain the security of our law enforcement officers on their day-to-day operations and the safety of the public. At the same time the patrol crew is working in the jail, or at the same time that the patrol crew is working, there's a jail crew working within the walls of the correctional facility. There are 2 crews that perform this duty, and they're comprised of 1 sergeant and 5 deputies. They work a similar schedule to the patrol division, with 1 crew on duty while the other crew is off. We have 2 deputies that are assigned to civil process. This is the process of serving the legal notices that must be served by the sheriff's office. We also have a crew that's responsible for court security. We have a community supervision program and drug court. This is comprised of 5 full-time deputies and 1 contract deputy. The contract deputy being a bailiff, and he works part-time. The jail lieutenant oversees the operations of this group, as well as the jail sergeants and the day-to-day operations of the jail. Our jail currently houses an average of 70 inmates at any given time, with a capacity of 88. We have a detective crew that's comprised of a sergeant and 5 deputies. We have a detective that's assigned to the Carbon Metro Drug Task Force full-time. We have a detective that performs ICAC operations, which is internet crimes, and that's grant-funded. They investigate all major criminal activity. We have a school resource officer that's full-time at the high school. And then they also fill in wherever they need to in the absence of any other area within the sheriff's office. We have a full-time office assistant who has been with the county for 40 years. Pretty amazing feat, in my opinion. And a full-time victims' rights advocate. The victims' rights advocate is funded through grants. And a part-time evidence technician, along with 3 full-time kitchen staff for the jail, which gives us a total of 50 total employees at the sheriff's office. Our detective sergeant oversees the day-to-day operations of animal control as well, which currently has 3 full-time animal control officers. Got some yearly stats for you. For 2019, the stats are as follows, and this is as of the end of November. Total jail bookings, 1,750 people have been booked into our jail. Our deputies have written a total of 1,600 reports and have responded to 7,406 calls for service. They've conducted 3,645 traffic stops. That's all the reactive stuff they've done, not to mention all the proactive stuff they've done. They've been involved in every community event. They are constantly out and about in the schools or in any function trying to encourage and mentor our citizens to be all they can be, and also they'd like to be integrated with the community. I believe Carbon County is home to approximately 18,000 citizens, and the Sheriff's Office currently has 20 officers serving this population in the community, with 30 total other employees, which is well below the national average, as well as a local comparison with Salt Lake Police Departments. Based on the national average, we should have approximately 26 officers and 38 other total employees, and that's just to be at the average. Another factor that needs to be addressed is the geography of Carbon County. Our deputies are responsible for 1,485 square miles of terrain, ranging from local cities, unincorporated areas, mountains, and deserts. Part of that's Desolation Canyon as well. With the local comparison of Salt Lake, which we compared for stat purposes, that is an urban area and has not even a third of that area to cover. I also want to point out that even though we have what could be considered a small population of residents in our county, at any given time we have well over 25,000 people in our county with people traveling through, and yes, we end up having to service them as well. The Sheriff's Office is responsible for managing the jail, court security at 2 separate facilities, transport for those in custody all across the state as well as nationwide, mental health transports, patrolling the unincorporated areas of the county, investigation of all criminal activity, emergency management, the animal shelter. We have a full-time school resource officer, SWAT, K-9, as well as helping our local jurisdictions in our county whenever needed. We currently fill in for Wellington that has 1 full-time officer and some reserves, so we cover them when they're not there as well. We've developed an excellent working relationship with our allied agencies, and this assistance goes both ways, with our fellow agencies assisting us in the unincorporated areas as often as we assist them in the cities. Some of the services we provided for Schofield are random patrols of the area, including Clear Creek, winter cabin checks that I'm sure most people don't even know we do, that are performed by teams of deputies on snow machines, gaining access to those cabins to do security checks on them, make sure everything's all right in the winter when the snow's too deep. We haul the fireworks to the island every year for the Pleasant Valley Day celebration. We do that with search and rescue and deputy sheriffs. We provide 2 crews of deputies every year for traffic control and police presence in general for the Pleasant Valley Day celebration. We provide traffic enforcement as well as respond to every call for police services in the area. We do rely on allied agencies up there to hold a scene until we can get there, and often we get there in plenty of time. So we've taken a proactive approach to this area, and we're up there as much as our resources allow. We recently were up there, and I personally and my chief deputy were along on this one. We're in winter quarters on an ATV accident where 2 gentlemen had been rescued in a 4-wheeler accident. They had to be carried out of a canyon. We were up there in the middle of the night taking care of that. To respond to a letter to the editor about vehicles used by the sheriff's office, there was a term called hot seating vehicles. This means as one deputy comes off shift, he gives his car to another deputy coming on shift. That's what it means to hot seat. I don't believe this is a good idea, and quite frankly don't see any savings with it. With modern vehicles and the old ways of getting 100,000 miles on a car and then getting rid of it are long gone. We only replace our vehicles when they become unreliable, and running them 24 hours a day will only wear them out much faster. We have some vehicles in our fleet that's over 10 years old and still serving. I don't know of any other sheriff's office in the state that hot seats their vehicles. These vehicles are the deputy's office and have all of their specific gear in it. Gear in some cases is fitted for each individual deputy. For hot seating to work, a deputy's gear would need to be totally swapped out at the end of each shift. Weapons mounting systems would need to be converted to accommodate a variety of different weapons that each deputy carries, with not all deputies carrying exactly the same weapons. That is not to mention that if a deputy was on a special assignment and not home or back to the office at the end of his shift, what would the other deputy do that needed to take the car? Also, there have been many studies on the value of take-home vehicles and the positive effect it has on the community and public safety. Plus, our deputies are available to be called out without delay, and this does happen more often than you might think. Most of our patrol deputies are multitask with extra assignments that take them away from their whole time, with an obvious one being SWAT. If they get called out on a SWAT call, they have to have their gear in their vehicle and respond in a timely manner, or there's not a need for SWAT. Each deputy assigned to a vehicle is held accountable for that vehicle, including the maintenance and care of it. I have seen fleets where cars are utilized by many different people and the vehicles are not cared for to the level that all ours are currently cared for. There's a lot of disposable gear that's maintained by each deputy, and I can see hot-seated cars being depleted of this gear and it not being restocked and ready for patrol. The current vehicle assignment system promotes pride in ownership, and that allows for accountability for any issues with a specific vehicle. I don't see this as a good idea. I don't see cost savings, nor is it serving the community to the level that's expected by law enforcement. That brings me to the jail transport vehicle. It was also mentioned that this vehicle is used to drive to the point of mountain, and I would encourage the author to inquire as to the use of the vehicle before stating its sole purpose is to transport prisoners to the point of the mountain, which is one of its many purposes. It's also used to transport prisoners from other jurisdictions where they've been arrested on warrants out of our court, to take prisoners back and forth from jail to court. Doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, mental health transports. It's literally utilized daily. It would be incredibly irresponsible to expect to go on such transport with an unreliable vehicle and have it break down on the summit in the middle of the night with temperatures below zero and a prisoner in the car. So the answer to that question is yes, this vehicle is very important to the operations of the sheriff's office. It currently has 60,000 miles on it. It's only a few years old, and it's not parked waiting to go to the point of the mountain. So we feel at the Sheriff's Office we serve our citizens with a high level of customer service and professionalism, and do so in a very cost-effective manner. We have a proactive approach to public safety and take great pride in serving the citizens of Carbon County. We have generally given funding back every year that I've been in the position of sheriff, but it is almost impossible to predict what the needs will arise over the course of a year. This year we looked at several ways to cut money and identified one area in county-provided cell phone and data packs. Several of them have been cut, and most of the rest are paid by grants. I hope this is helpful and helps you better understand the task taken on by the Sheriff's Office. We will continue to provide the best public safety possible while saving as much money as we can, and my door is always open. Please feel free to come by and ask if you have any questions about the operations of the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Wood. We're lucky to have our officers. As we open the public hearing, we would like to give priority to those who did not get an opportunity to speak at the November public hearing. The public is welcome to provide input from the public with respect to a possible increase of the municipal service fund tax rate and to receive input with respects to the 2020 budget. You are welcome to comment on either or both the tax increase or the 2020 budget. If you spoke at the November hearing, you may also speak after we have heard from those who did not have a chance at that time. We welcome your comments and pledge to carefully consider them in weighing our decisions regarding a possible tax increase. We appreciate your concern and commitment to the well-being of our county. Because of the number of people here tonight, we wish to establish a few ground rules to ensure that the meeting proceeds in an orderly manner. First, it's important that we keep doorways and walkways clear to comply with the fire code. If anyone needs overflow seating, there's seating downstairs in the Justice Court. Next, if you wish to provide a comment on either the proposed tax increase or the 2020 budget, you need to sign in at the table down at the bottom of the stairs on the first floor. We will call on persons to speak in the order that they have signed in. If you spoke at the last meeting, please cede your time until the end so that we may allow persons who didn't speak then to go first. When your name is called, please come to the podium. You must state your name clearly and audibly into the microphone before making comments. The commission will not take comments from the audience at large. We will require that each person limit his or her comments to 2 minutes. If you are here as part of an organization or group, we would ask, if at all possible, that you designate one person as a spokesman and represent your group. Please tell us the names of all persons present from your group for whom you are speaking. We will take additional testimony and evidence from other members of your group as time allows. Please note that the statute indicates that the County Commission shall provide an interested party desiring to be heard an opportunity to present oral testimony. With these 2 caveats, within reasonable time limits and without unreasonable restriction on the number of individuals allowed to make public comment. We want to emphasize that the statute allows us to place a restriction on the number of individuals allowed to comment as long as the restriction is reasonable. It is our intention to let as many persons as possible speak tonight. But you should be aware that there may come a point where we will need to restrict the number of persons we hear from. If you wish to present comments that are similar to those of persons who have already spoken, please keep your comments brief or simply indicate that you agree with or are in support of a testimony given by such and such a person. If your comments are not specifically tailored to the purposes of this meeting, we may direct you to focus your comments or may ask you to yield the floor to the next speaker. In order to allow as many persons as possible to speak tonight, we will most likely reserve answering your questions until after the public hearing. In an attempt to answer some of the most frequently heard questions we have received to this point, and we've already given you some of those, but we will once again give some of these answers that we gave at the first meeting. To give some general background, we would first like to present some of the information prior to the opening of the public hearing. Commissioner Hopes.
Perhaps not everyone is aware, but a large portion of the county's budget, including Municipal Services Fund, was previously supplemented with money received from coal and gas royalties that were paid to our Special Service District and which were then paid to the county. Those funds have decreased tremendously since 2008. Additionally, several years ago, the state passed laws granting centrally assessed businesses, including coal mines and businesses with multi-county locations, more tax exemptions, which significantly cut into the county's revenue. And as our revenues decreased, our expenses have increased. Everything since that time has become more expensive. Vehicles which are bought for various county departments have become more expensive. Office supplies have become more expensive. Road maintenance materials have become more expensive. The county has not deliberately sought to raise taxes since 2003. Further, the Municipal Services Fund has never had a tax raise in it since it was established in 1986. Commissioner Martinez.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to know that the county has done everything possible that it can to continue to provide the same amount and level of service while trimming costs. 2 years ago, the county laid off 13 employees to avoid a tax increase. This fall, we as commissioners met with each of our department heads and asked them to do all they can to reduce their expenses even further. We feel that our department heads have done all they can do to reduce their services without the risks of them being unable to perform the statutorily mandated services, which are not optional, or provide the level of service that the Carbon County residents have come to expect. We would like you to know that this budget does not provide for any raises for the county employees. It does not provide for a cost of living increase. Several years ago, the county began to require the county employees to pay for a portion of their health insurance, and they continue to do so today under this budget. We are at the point where we cannot continue providing services at the same level unless additional revenues are brought into the county. The only option at this point is to stop providing certain services or to stop providing them at the same level they've been provided historically. But we want the public to know that raising taxes isn't the only thing that Carbon County is trying to do. And if I could, Chairman, I'd like to bring up a little bit of a slideshow and kind of give a couple of minutes, if I could, a little talk on, I don't know if that's on there. I could turn that to. Can you all see that?
There we go.
So this is just my perspective. Being a new county commissioner, the top priorities I had in my campaign last year was to be fiscally responsible, to watch the budgets, to watch the spending. The other one was the economic development, and also to attract new industries to Carbon County. Apparently that mindset was agreed to by the majority of people in this county because they elected me. Once you get in office, you kind of see the real picture of everything that's going on here. As of January of this year, there are 19 projects that the county is paying for, a total of $38 million of debt payments. These are a list of the 19 items that we're paying for. You know, this is anything from 9 Mile Road to North Springs Shooting Range, the Road to Nowhere up Consumer Canyon, as it's called, the animal shelter, on and on, the Children's Justice Center. I will say a caveat on the bottom one, the 7th District Court. That is part of, it's listed as one of the debt items. However, that is being paid for by the state of Utah. The county does not see any debt from that.
As well as the Department of Natural Resources building.
Yes. So I'm an optimistic person. I always try to make things into a positive light. Half of the projects that we have currently will be paid for in 2028. I look at that as a goal, things that we can achieve. And in that mindset, I realize that we do not need any other buildings at this point. We need to watch our capital spending, and we need to tackle these 10 items as quickly as possible. There's a list of all of the items, and some of these go out till 2043. To put that into perspective personally, my son will be 42 years old when that last item is paid for. He's 18 right now, just graduated high school and is currently attending the university here. That's a daunting thing that looms over my head daily. One of the other items here too, we all familiar with. I see some coal miners in here tonight. If I say the names, Willow Creek, Plateau, White Oak, Horizon, Hidden Splendor, Soldier Creek. Those are all gone. All of those, it's pretty amazing. You think about it. We do not have an operating coal mine in Carbon County right now. There is not an ounce of coal being extracted in Carbon County. That hasn't happened in 138 years. Dugout is on a hot idle right now. They're not producing. Skyline is on Carbon County, but that coal is being extracted from San Pete.
How about dugout?
They're on a hot idle.
What?
Hot idle? Idle? They're idle.
Dugout mine.
Yes, that's what I just said, Mel. It's on a hot idle.
How long has it been that long?
Month and a half. They
Yeah.
send all their employees to Sufco and Skyline.
And why are they on a hot idle?
They have some problems with the quality of coal at Skyline and Sufco both. So they've sent their workforce down there to help get those guys out of problems. It is our hope that that coal mine will be back up and running in 2020, but they did not give us a date as to when that would start. So for all intents and purposes, I want everybody to think about that. There's not 1 ounce of coal being mined in Carbon County. Hasn't happened for 138 years.
What about Lila?
That's Emory County. The budget shortfall, we have a budget shortfall of $2.8 million per year. The proposed municipal service tax, municipal service fund tax increase, that raises $2.2 million. We will still have to use $800,000 out of the surplus money, out of the savings that we have. So if we don't go with this tax increase, here's some things that can be cut out. And this is what we've heard, and I'm sure as you guys talk in your groups, you've heard this as well or suggested this. Cut out the fairgrounds, cut out the event center. That's $555,000. The rec department, North Spring Shooting Range, that's $310,115. The senior center, you know, there's people that say we shouldn't have that senior center out there. That's $502,000 savings. That totals 1.3, as you can see. That still doesn't get us to where we need to go. So we need to cut further services, whether it's the sheriff's department, the road department, the ambulance, the employees here. There's still a significant cut that would need to happen. This is my personal tax increase or tax form, my tax notice. There are 10 line items on there, and you can see that big arrow. We're only talking about one line item. That currently for me is $35.06. It's pretty funny, the people in the city are really jealous that I live in the county and I have to just pay $35 for services. This increase, it is 733%, takes me up to from $35 to $292.18. That's an increase of $257.12. It's you know, a regular house out in Westwood, quarter-acre lot, nothing's fancy. One thing I'd like to point out too is I don't have any abatements or any credits. I pay my taxes straight up. I think that's my obligation. I don't play any games with that. Have done so for 22 years. So that increase, breaking it down, the increase of $257, the total tax would be $292. That translates to me personally, $24.35 a month. If you break that down on a daily cost, that's 81 cents a day for this municipal service tax increase. In my mind personally, 81 cents a day, $25 a month is nothing to keep the fairgrounds open for our kids. I don't even have horses. I'd love to keep that place open. The North Spring Shooting Range, the senior center, it's a fantastic facility. So in my mind, I just wanted to point this out. We've been methodical about this. We've put a lot of decisions, choices. We weighed a lot of things back and forth. And I've taken the time to go through this, and I hope everybody else has, and they don't get stuck on the percentage. They actually look at the numbers. That's what we're here to talk about. So I appreciate the time and for letting me show this.
Thank you. I think one thing that's very clear in trying to respond to questions that you have raised, that there, as I look back over the last year, in the amount of time it's taken me to absorb and understand this budget. I dealt with a budget my entire working career in private business. Government budgets are much different, much more complicated, and for many of us in the community who try to look at these documents and try to figure out what it means, it's pretty tough without having some explanation. So questions that you may have beyond tonight are available to be answered by the experts who understand them. Our county clerk's office and the three of us are willing to sit down and talk with you. As we begin to review the budget, we would like you to consider that our budget has remained more or less the same as past years. We are not raising taxes to increase our budget. We are increasing taxes to maintain our revenues at a more or less where they have been over the last several years. Even with this tax increase, the county will require an additional $800,000 to meet the budget requirements. Seth, do you have anything to add at this point?
I think you covered it well. I mean, later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. As we open the public hearing, we would note for the record that we have received letters from the following: Liberty Pioneer Energy Source, Jim Darter, Wayne Franson, Robert and Kathy Fairbanks, Doug and Carlene Carter, Kelly Ernst, Tom Ogden, Lonnie J. Thacker, Eugene E. DeClaudio, Elmers, Dale and Carrie Green, Alan Chenworth, and Sam Brown, who opposed the tax increase. We will now need a motion to go into... I missed Mel Coonrod, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mel. We did get your letter. So we'll now open the public hearing on the proposed tax increase and on the 2020 budget. Do we need a motion to go into this public hearing, or are we already there?
You put it on the agenda. I think you can just open it up at this point.
Okay. So in front of you, there's a computer screen with a timer on it. We would encourage you to keep an eye on that. We will invite you up several at a time and allow for those to wait behind who's speaking so that you can get up and speak when it's your turn. So we'll begin with Susan McCovey Bernard, Mike Durant, Kathy Fairbanks, and Dale Terry. I'll let the four of you come up. Starting with Susan, Mike, Kathy, and Dale.
My name is Susan McFoy Barnard, and I oppose this tax increase. I'm a transplant to Utah. Basically, I came from New York State. They taxed me off my property. I give the remaining time to Cheryl Lupo.
Good evening. My name is Mike Durant. Excited to be here. Good to see you three brothers up there. I have a little different take on this. I'm certainly opposed to this. I cannot tell you the excitement I had when you're all re-elected, when you're all elected. To watch the results. And I think all of you are elected somewhat because of your families. This is a small area. We know a lot of people, even here tonight. We know your kids, we know your brothers and sisters, we know your wives, we know your grandkids. Nice people. Like it here in Carbon County. Your families think of others more than themselves. They will sacrifice I use the expression they'll walk on water. Just nice, nice people. Certainly say the same thing about the brothers and sisters here tonight. A lot of coal miners here saved my life. You can count on people in Carbon County. I'm not sure this is what's happened. You see it in all forms of government. Just a week ago, I saw the governor all excited over a tax on food. A tax on these people is taking money out of them. How you tax a widow, a person on Social Security, a young person trying to raise a family. I'd look you dead in the eye. Do what your families have done for generations. Take a pay decrease and cut these bills. You hear it, tax and spend, and that's what goes on every form of government I see. I thought you brothers could make a difference. Appreciate your effort.
Thank you. Excuse me one second, Kathy. Dale Terry, Gordon Odendahl, Mel Coonrod.
I appreciate to know that you have received my letter. I'm from up in the Schofield area, but your display of your taxes is awesome. I knew when we bought up there that it was as a second home and that our taxes would be higher. But my tax increase for the general fund is $1,040. And my increase for last year was over $700. That makes a $1,700 growth in my taxes in 2 years. We built this place by ourselves, hand and foot by ourselves. We didn't go into debt for it. We paid it as we went. And now when we're ready to retire on it, I need another job. So, and when you explained well that we get services up there, I like the dumpster at the end of the road. That's great. But I don't get any school services. I know that we can call on the services that are there and that they're expensive to try and get up there. But we pay for our own roads. We pay for the water maintenance of our property. So I'm kind of like, you've got all your line items, but I don't see a whole lot that comes back to me to get a $1,700 increase in 2 years on a property that we hoped our family would be able to enjoy. I'd like to be able to stay and enjoy that in Carbon County, but this is a real burden to, I think, the increase. Wish the people had had foresight before and increased this incrementally, knowing that eventually, someday, the coal industry wasn't going to be able to support all you people that get to live here. And now I get to help pay for that mistake. That's all.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm Dale Terry. To be trusted is greater than to be loved. But to accomplish this, you must have integrity, honesty, and compassion. Raising our taxes 800% does not show any kind of compassion. I'm thinking of the older people that are on a fixed income. There is no way they can do it. But you see, we're here today to talk about taxes, and this isn't anything new. Over the many, many, many years, you've learned in school from history that the kings, the emperors, all tried to raise the taxes and found they were hitting a brick wall. A case in point, remember Julius Caesar? You've all studied Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. Well, Julius Caesar, about 44 BC, was finally killed because he was trying to raise the taxes to such an extreme. So a young man by the name of Brutus, who was not a friend of Julius Caesar, by the way, spoke at his funeral. I guess that's what they called it then, but he made the statement at the funeral, friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ear. I came to bury Caesar, not to praise him. This is what he said that still means something today. The evil that men do live after them. The good oft tarry with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. And so that's what we're talking about today. But my time is just about ended here. And I want to recall for just a moment, Dr. Olson spoke last week and said, what would it be like if I raised my fees 800%? People couldn't afford any of my services. Well, let me tell you, brethren, gentlemen, for the last 30 plus years, I have been providing services for the jail for the past 30 plus years. And let me tell you, those prisoners are extremely good patients for the most part. But I think we need to play on this, since we're playing in the same field, I think we need to have the same rules. Therefore, I realize that it's going to cut me. But whatever you decide to raise the taxes to, I will raise my fees for the prisoners at the jail. Case in point, just let me bring this to your attention. I charge now $51 for a surgical extraction. My normal fee is $65 to $70. Okay, if the tax goes at 800%, they will now be paying $400 plus for an extraction. That's a little bit ridiculous, isn't it? And if they make an appointment and don't show up, we call that a no-show. Instead of a $10 no-show, now be $80? Come on. I hope that you'll stop and listen and to what I said at the very beginning. It is greater to be trusted than to be loved. Thank you.
Hi.
My name's Gordon Odendahl. I'm here representing myself and my family. I work in business. One of the things I've always been taught in business is that when times get tough, that's the time to increase your sales efforts. At the last meeting, there was a decrease in the funds that were going to be spent for economic development over the previous year. I would ask you to put forth every effort that you can, every resource that you can towards economic development, and also take advantage of some of the other organizations that are here. There are voluntary organizations that are interested in economic development. There are other government agencies, and there are private economic development agencies. Pro Carbon, Bear, Price City, Emery County. I would ask that Carbon County join all of those other agencies to promote us. We're all in this together. Let's work together towards it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm not in favor of a tax increase either.
Thank you. Mel, before you begin, let's invite Dolores Godin, Paul Colosimo, and Amy Dinkelman to come forward. Go ahead, Mel.
Well, first off, I'd like to state I'm opposed to the tax increase, but I'm also very disappointed in Tony and Larry. I spoke with you gentlemen at length prior to the election. Both of you assured me a tax increase was not something you had in mind. In fact, you assured me there wouldn't be one. So that bothers me. I've known Larry, I've known you for what, 20 years? More. What do you do in your own business when revenues fall short? I'm sure you don't send a bill out to all your past clients and say, hey, kick in another 20% or 30% on that bill so we can meet our overhead. I'm confident you do one of two things. You lay off people or you sell assets. Okay, you have excellent people working in Carbon County. I'd hate to see additional people laid off. But you have a lot of assets which are a liability. Sell the event center, sell the senior citizen center, put those into private industry. They can be run at 30 to 50% less than it costs government. And at the same time, you won't need this tax increase. The other thing that I've complained about, and I'm sure you're all familiar with, we live in an area where we have absolutely no county services. I take that back. One of Jeff's deputies came up a couple of years ago. He was lost, and I told him where to go. But other than that, we have not seen a county employee within our subdivision. We do our own road maintenance. We remove our own snow. We haul our garbage out to the state highway. I would be glad to pay for those services. In fact, you can send me a bill for everything the county currently provides, and I'll write you a check. But right now, we have no children living in our subdivision. Or that could be wrong. We might have one child. So actually, I am a little disappointed in you guys. I hope you can come up with an alternative to this tax increase. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mel.
I'm Dolores Godin. I'm opposed to the tax increase. I would like to donate my time to Cheryl Lupo.
Okay, thank you.
Evening, I'm Paul Colosimo. First off, I want to thank you guys for what you are trying to do. You guys have a tough task at hand. One thing I do want to bring up that a lot of people are getting up here complaining about the tax increase. I, for one, am not in favor of it. But complaining about things doesn't help you guys solve the problem. What I'd like to do is maybe kind of throw a few things out there for you to look at when we're penny pinching and trying to reduce the amount we're spending. One thing that I notice personally is county vehicles being taken to resident houses. I know I've worked for government. I worked for Salt Lake City Public Utilities for years, and using public monies to pay for transportation to a resident's house is completely frowned upon. I see it multiple times, lunch hours, running home for this or that. That needs to stop. I mean, it's a huge cost. You don't realize how many miles you put on those vehicles a year doing that. One other thing that I see a lot driving around, it's not just county vehicles, but city vehicles as well, is if you're observant, look at the air pressure in these tires. Salt Lake City did a study, and we had to go through and do it. 400 vehicles. We checked air pressure in them daily for a month. Every vehicle was out of optimal air pressure. It affects your gas mileage in those vehicles. We hired a high school kid for $7 an hour. His job was to go through, fill tires up, and the cost of fuel consumption in that year went down 20%, running optimal air pressure. I'll try and make this quick because I've went through my time here, but I don't know if this is a possibility, but it's something that I want to throw out there with my limited knowledge on tax increases and spending here. But, we're looking at taxing the unincorporated areas to help with this municipal tax. What about doing a county-wide sales tax increase? That way, it's not just unincorporated areas that are paying to fund the municipal fund, but yet everybody in the county. We would incorporate people on state assistance. We would incorporate people that are renting, not paying taxes. If you increase that 1%, right now the population in Carbon County is roughly 20,000 people. If you take an average of each person spending $12,000 a year, that's a $120 increase per person per year. Times 20,000 people, that's $2.4 million. I think all of us can afford $10 a month. And that's only who lives here. That doesn't incorporate who passes through going to Moab, Lake Powell, Grand Junction. You would capture more money that route as well. And I do know that, you know, there is ways to do that. And the other thing that I want you guys to look at is delinquent property taxes. I pulled up a list the other day on the internet. There's 46 pages of people that have delinquent property taxes. AJB Holdings, every other line on the delinquent property taxes. Years, not just this last year, 2 and 3 years past, haven't paid property taxes. Why are we not doing something about that? Collect those property taxes or do something about the properties and sell them. You know, take them over. There's a lot of revenue sitting there. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Let's see, Robert Robinson and Gary Lupo.
Okay, my name is Amy Dinkelman, and I'd like to say that I voted for most of you, and I do realize that you do have a difficult job that you're doing, and I don't want you to think that we don't appreciate your efforts. And I do appreciate the services that are provided with the Sheriff's Department and everything like that. I do see the benefit. I do see their presence in the county. But as I thought about this proposed increase, I realize our mineral leases have basically dwindled to nothing, and we're not getting the money that we've gotten in the past, and that's not your problem. You inherited this. But the problem is these services that you're providing and this increase, you're putting it just for the municipal fund, just for those that are in the unincorporated areas. Everyone in this county benefits from these services. Everyone benefited from the mineral leases, but the only ones being taxed are those that live in the county. And if it comes to the point where we have to have a tax increase, then maybe it should be across the board and it could be a lesser increase. I think most of us understand that we might have to bite the bullet and we're probably going to have to pay more in taxes, but it doesn't seem right to me that those that are in the unincorporated areas should have to pay this increase for something that the entire county benefited from. I am in support of the Senior Citizen Center, whether it remains in that building or not. I see the benefits for the members in our community that don't have transportation, that may not have the ability to take advantage of some of the other services that are available in the county because of their limited access or whatever the case may be. So I do appreciate that. But again, to reiterate, I think that we need to bite the bullet, all of us. If it takes a little bit of an increase, it shouldn't be on just one portion of our community. It should be on the entire community that benefits from the services you provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Robert Robinson. I live out in Lower Miller Creek. I got some stats here that I got off of the internet at a place called Transparent Utah. So, and anybody can go there. You can find out who makes what. You know, I'm not going to go through that, but I did find some other stuff. 16.2% of people in this county live below the poverty line. Employment in this county declined last year 1.76%. You know, despite all this national hoopla about how great the economy is, it's not good here. The median income for this county is $46,994 a year. That's down 1.67% from last year. Last year it was $47,793. We have a bright spot. Healthcare costs increased in this county last year 5.73%. if I were you, I'd go find these people who are doing well and tax them. Now, as far as I got one last thing to say. It's kind of a pet peeve for me. Like I said, I think all pay scales for any county employee should be based somewhere. You should have some kind of benchmark there. You got people, you got 3 guys, their total, $310,509. I would suggest that anybody that makes over the median income for the county be considered an outside contractor, pay for their own health and their own, pension or whatever like that. And that's, thank you.
Thank you. Following Gary Lupo, Bruce Robinson. And then we're going to start with those who spoke last time. So after Bruce will be Alice Gross and Alan Larson.
Hi, I'm Gary.
Gary.
I'm opposed against the tax hike. I run a business here for 30 years, and I can't raise my prices like that. I'll be out of business. I leave the rest of the time to Cheryl Lupo.
Sounds like the sheriff's got his crap together. Good job. You guys are screwed. The only things that's going to save this county or the only thing that made this county is mining. You're screwed. You got to find a way to get around it. Get some outside information, whatever it takes. Listen to the miners. You're telling me that Skyline's dead. I see them loading coal every day because I live in Clear Creek, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Clear Creek is an unincorporated area. We take care of most of our stuff. The thing that benefits us most is the county snow removal, because we get a hell of a lot of snow. We're up at 8,500 feet. If you'd like to visit and come and help us shovel, we'll have you up there. But we do get the county to help us. We take care of just about we pay our own water, we pay everything. It doesn't cost that much, but we pay for it. We love living there. I got this chart in the paper, and it looks like the unincorporated county parts. I live at the end of the world. I live beyond Schofield. And I'm going to be paying as much as Schofield? And the rest of the counties are? They're all getting that. We're all getting that. That's why we don't understand it. I've never seen the sheriff. God bless you. We'll take care of it ourselves. We will, trust me. And the whole thing to me is just, you got a big job. You got to think outside of the box, because it's a lot of people are going to be paying a lot of money, and you're all newbies. I wouldn't have your job for nothing. I don't know how much you're paying you, but I get a part-time one because it's not enough. You got a long haul. I hope that you realize this and you work towards it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sir?
Oh, by the way, my name's Bruce Robbins.
Thank you. Everybody needs to state their name before they give their comments, please.
My name's Alice Gross. I talked at the last one. I feel if my property taxes get raised as much as they're going to get raised, I will lose my home, like I told you before, because I get $771 in Social Security a month. That's all I get. If it gets raised as much as they're proposing, it will go to $1,100, and it's $140. And even with the tax abatement, which is your low income, because I am low income, being $771 a month. I'm considered as indigent and hardship, so it's half and I pay $70 a year. I just paid my property tax. I wish I was like you and I had the money. I'd pay it. I wouldn't mind it. But when you don't have the money, you can't pay something, especially if it goes so high. And even at $550, which is half of $1,100, I'm not going to be able to pay that. That's way over $140, which is what it is originally before they half it at $70. I mean, no way. That's a couple $100 less than what I get a month to live on. If I had it, I'd pay it. I don't have it. When you don't have it, you can't pay it. I'll lose the house in 5 years, and I'll be on the street. You want to invest in something, build a YMCA. I'm going to need one. I don't know about anybody else, but I am. I won't have nowhere to go. My brother's over 66. He qualifies for free taxes. He doesn't pay them because he doesn't get any money either with his Social Security and retirement. I'm glad for him. He hasn't paid them for 11 years. If I live that long, maybe I'll get free property taxes. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I just know I can't pay them, and I hope you reconsider, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Alan Larson, Colton Rudin, Douglas Olson, Larry Davis.
Maybe if I could say something real quick, Commissioner Jensen.
Yes.
Alice, if you could stop by our office, down the clerk's office, we'd love to talk to you about your taxes. I understand that. We looked at your taxes this last couple of weeks, and yours is slated to go up to about $18 is about your increase for next year, and your abatement will cover 9 of that. So we'll probably see about a $9 or $10 increase next year. So.
My name is Alan Larson. Hello, gentlemen. During the last meeting, I'd brought up some points about some free monies that were available. Again, as it seems like the common thread tonight seems to be about the shortfall and about the lack of funds everywhere. And I know you don't give answers to these questions per se at the meetings, but I would like to know at what point would we get an answer about what the county is going to do to acquire some of the free money that's out there. Again, the story was about the school districts. School districts, big part of the taxes. There again, there was a story on Behind the Books about the money that was available for all the school districts. Carbon County didn't even apply. I mentioned about the issue with the coal miners and their fund, the health care and pensions. That has come to fruition as recently Mitch McConnell has pushed some of that legislation through the government that's going to happen. So there's going to be some extra money. But if you look backwards, back even to 2017, the United States Economic Development Administration was offering up to $30 million for coal-affected counties that were having an effect from the coal mining industry that they could apply for funds. Like there again, free grant money. And they even put directions. I mean, it seems like the whole thing was being nobody has the expertise to write the grants, but they would give specific direction on that website as a how to do, or writing grants for dummies, so to speak. But isn't there somebody that we can find that can do that, to look for that money? Why can't we take that money if it's out there? I mean, am I just being naive to think that that's not possible? I mean, somebody is getting it. Some counties, some states across this nation are getting that money. Why can't Carbon County?
We will address it tonight.
Okay.
So we'll answer questions tonight.
Okay, appreciate that. And I'm still against the tax increase, of course, but Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
I'm Colton Rudin. I'm against the tax increase, and I yield my time to Cheryl Lupo.
Let's see. Larry Davis, Fred Davis, Cindy Christensen.
Did you
Go
say
ahead.
Doug Olson, or?
Yes, you're up, Doug. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm talking on behalf of my wife and I.
Okay.
We live in Lower Miller Creek. You're talking about services. Most of the service we've had out there is like plowing snow in the winter, but I'm sure you'd have to do that for school buses. We've had our road out there, tar put down and gravel. Next time we had a layer of pavement put on it in the last 20 years. We pay for our garbage pickup, so most everything else is done by us. We're on a fixed income. We pay through the nose for propane. And I've seen this happen once before in Emery County, where we've been to meetings like this, and you keep telling us things. We keep telling you our you know, how we feel about it. But when it come down to the last dollar, they stood up and said, we're going to pass this whether you like it or not. So I would suggest to you, if you're going to do that, to tell the people here, so they don't have to come to another meeting, that that's what you're going to do, is pass it. And we can get it over with.
We intend to make a
But I'm
decision
against
tonight.
it totally.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Davis. Gentlemen, I know you have a tough road to hoe in front of you. But you know, bureaucracies, our government in every stage, whether it's city, county, federal, state, whatever it happens to be, our bureaucracies seem to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. They get fatter than what they can stand. But they don't seem to think that they can do anything about it except tax their way out of it. Somewhere along the line, I mean, taxes has to slow down. I mean, hell, we even get taxed for dying. So, you know, it's got to slow down somewhere, and I was hoping when you three gentlemen got elected that that's what would happen. I was hoping that you guys would be able to take this thing under control and you'd be able to do something with it. And as far as our tax money that we're losing on all these companies that's coal-oriented, you three ought to be beating the governor's door down, saying, wait just a minute, you know, you can't do this, Dutch. It's killing us. I mean, I don't know how much Wellington City lost when Joy got their little tax break, but it hurt them. It hurt them really bad. You know it and I know it. And we need to try to get that money back on the table. I mean, things are bad now, and it's only going to get worse if we don't do something. And you can't continue to tax the people to death. Government takes just enough away from you to irritate you, and then the next year they take a little more away. And I see you smiling about it, but I'm sure you sit at your table and said the same thing.
Sure.
And so, you know, if there's any way on God's green earth that you guys can curb this down and avoid this, I would suggest that you do that.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Let's see, up next would be, after Fred, Cindy Christensen, Richard Godin, Amanda Godin. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Fred Davis. Part of the things that you ran on as commissioners was bringing work into our community businesses. I'd like to point out that in the process of building this building, our new courthouse, our county shops and so on, all the contractors that built those buildings were people from outside of this county. And we dumped millions, I estimate somewhere around $40 million into companies that were not part of our community. Very few of the employees or very little of the work that was done on any of these buildings was given to the people here in this county. I retired not long ago. When I got ready to retire, I put money away. I planned out what it's going to cost me, how much it's going to cost to live, and how much it's going to cost for me to operate. I don't get an opportunity to have much of a cost of living increase. But when things get a little tight and I need some, want something, I find a way to get it paid for, but I don't find a way to get paid for by going out and taking money from my neighbor. I find it by cutting back on something that I can do without, something that I can reduce expenditures on. And I believe by looking at the budget that we have here today, if my wife was to come and talk with you, she could probably cut that in half. And I think that she could probably get more done. Anyway, I'm very opposed to this tax. And I think that we have many things presented in the budget, which is a little bit vague. By the way, you don't tell us where the money really is going other than the road department or the sheriff's office or whatever. But there's a lot of money that can be saved. And if you're only looking at $3 million, that's 10%. Think about it.
Thank you.
My name is Cindy Christensen. I asked a couple of questions last time. I didn't hear the answers for it. One was the premium amount that the employees increased and what share they are paying of that, what the county's picking up of it. The other one was if a property is taxed assessed at an amount that is higher than the appraised value, what the adjustments you'll make into the assessment for that.
Okay.
And now I have another question. Okay. And it's fading out of my mind. Hold on a second. I may have to give my time to Cheryl. It had to do with, I am drawing a blank. Oh, on the taxes that are delinquent, what are the procedures that the county does have for taking care of delinquent property taxes? Of taking over the property, of penalizing? I'm just not aware of it, so if you could explain that also. Okay. Thanks.
We will, thank you.
I'm Richard Godin, and I too oppose this tax increase. As I listened to Jeff, I thought he said we don't charge a surcharge or anything on citations we write. Why don't we? We're writing a lot of citations to the same people, either people that are involved in drugs, people that fail to take care of their vehicles, don't license their vehicles. Why isn't there a surcharge on citations that are where the citation ends up in a guilty or a conviction? Why don't we charge $45 an hour, 2-hour minimum for a police officer, $45 for every time they write a citation if there's a guilty? These guys are out there sticking their head out to write these citations. Why don't we charge something for? We're using our vehicles, we're using our men, we're burning our fuel. The people that are getting citations all the time, why aren't they paying something for that? Because a lot of them are repeat offenders. Why aren't they being charged instead of the taxpayers that never get a citation in their life, but they're still paying for the sheriff's office that could be paid for by the people that are being arrested on a regular basis? The other thing is, I'm in favor of the suggestion. Why isn't this done as a sales tax instead of as a tax against the citizens? We have a lot of people through this town. This is a busy highway. There's a lot of money to be collected in taxes. They buy food. They buy motel rooms. They buy gas. Why isn't some of that money collected and used? My third suggestion is, we're talking about the road department. This is assuming that only us that live in the county are the ones that are in the rural areas, the ones that are using these county roads. That's baloney. Go out there on any weekend, see how many guys are running out there at their pickup with their ATV on the back, pulling their camper. We're paying for that road to be maintained for guys to come in hunting from out of state. Why don't we put a use fee on the major roads in county and do like they do on ATVs and for the state? let's put a county fee for the use of these areas. And instead of trying to bleed all the money out of us, I'm retired. I don't get an increase. I never get an increase. But taxes go up every year, and not just on this. We already have a school bond or school money that was passed, and you're going to be looking for more money for schools. Those are going to increase our taxes. So this isn't the only tax that we're going to get increased on. And yeah, we can look at this one today, but there's more, and it's not going to end. And I'm also in favor of selling these facilities that could be operated by private individuals that they could be charged taxes on those instead of we, the taxpayers, pay all the money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Richard. We have Catherine Steele next, after Amanda, and Deborah Scoville, Jaylene Malaris, and we'll go to that point.
Hi, Amanda Godin. I'm opposed to the tax increase, and I appreciate your time. Sorry. I appreciate your time with the slideshow. That was helpful. This is heartbreaking. I can't imagine what you guys are going to have to do to make this decision now. But we're going to have to cut those businesses, those facilities. The senior center is just, that's disgusting to think about losing it. But I have 2 kids that I support, and I would love to have TV. I cut my TV 2 years ago because I can't afford it. If I go knocking on my neighbor's door and I need money so I can get cable or satellite again, I think you're either going to arrest me or they're going to shoot me. So, it hurts. The senior center, the fairground, all of them are amazing, but you have to cut it. If you don't have the money, you can't lead us out. You've got to take it. And that's going to be a really hard decision to make, but we're going to be back here in a couple of years possibly and lose them anyway. So I'm sorry you guys have to do this, but please, please just help us and don't let this happen. Don't let this pass. If I can, I'd love to yield my last minute to Cheryl. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Catherine Steele. Last time I asked questions about how this was going to affect people who have property on the Greenbelt, and I don't feel like I got a real answer. As I got my Greenbelt tax notices out, the Municipal Service Fund is on there, but our Greenbelt property gets nothing. We don't get garbage, we don't get sheriff, we don't get road, we don't get anything. We just get cows. So that's my question. I need more detail on that. And it was explained to me by the ladies in the office that it's the same rate, but I don't see how I'm benefiting by anything on my Greenbelt property by this increase. And also I would like to say that I think there's been some really great suggestions, like raising the sales tax. Sounds to me like something that everyone would participate in, even people that don't live here. So I would be in favor of that. But I am not in favor of this huge increase on my line items on my properties. And I'll yield my 38 seconds to Cheryl.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Scoville. I'm opposed to the tax increase, and I would like to remind you that I would think raising taxes should be the last resort. There are other ways to generate funding, and grant writing, there's no excuse for not knowing how to write a grant. I'm sorry, that's your job. That's part of your job. You should be able to do that. You should have read up on it before you took office. I'm sorry. Also, they should make an agreement, coordinate services in the area. I was in Arby's for lunch one day. I saw 2 Tri-City police cars, Utah State Highway Patrol, and a sheriff's office vehicle go by in the few minutes I happened to look out the window. And you know what? To your defense, one person was stopped right in front of Arby's. Check your records. It was 2 Fridays ago. It's highly suspect to me that you mentioned at the first meeting that the sheriff's office expenses was moved from a different fund into this fund. Am I correct? Well, never mind, you can't answer questions. But why was it moved? It was never given an answer to. Kind of slid under the radar there. All people who benefit from this municipal fund should pay part of it. They should have part of the burden of paying the increased taxes, not just the unincorporated people in the community. They are not the only people that enjoy these services. I would also like to reiterate the delinquent tax debt. If you think that that's going to go down, not after this. The delinquent's tax debt is going to go up. So there needs to be something done about recouping some of those funds from the tax debt. I hope I did not offend anyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jaylene Malaris, and I oppose the tax increase. And I just have to say that I'm so disappointed. Tony, I voted for you, and I want to vote for you again. I don't think any of you will be reelected if you do this drastic of a tax increase. Now, if it goes through, for me, it's not going to break the bank. But it's going to break the bank for a lot of other people. And the problem is, I see this happening again and again and again. This is going to keep on keeping on until we find a solution. Be creative. Put a pencil to it. Inspire me. You know, let me be so proud of you. I want to, and I certainly don't want to stand up here and complain without giving any ideas, but it's not my job to come up with the ideas. But, you know, I'm willing to help, and we've got to change the mentality of the people around here. There's so many people that don't contribute to the tax base, and they just wander around. I mean, we need to, the people are here, we have to do something with them. We need to start helping. I help people every day as much as I can. Please inspire me, and please do not raise the taxes. I mean, I'm not going to hate you if you do raise the taxes, but, you know, I'm certainly not going to vote for you guys again. And I'll give my last 27 seconds to Cheryl Lupo.
Why don't we have George Ingram come up? And then after George, it'll be Cheryl's turn.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I had mentioned a few things last time I was here, a couple weeks ago, and I've been thinking about them. I know for a fact that I can bring huge number of people here to attend things like amateur radio ham fests, some other things that I'm very good at organizing, which I've done in the past in the Philadelphia area. I took a small organization called the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club, and we went from their first year of having a ham fest of 1,200 people show up, which would be nice in this community, to over 30,000. And that's where it stands now to these days. It hasn't really gone up much, but I don't know why, but anyway, it might be because I'm here. Anyway, there's something else that I'd like to talk to you about. I think it's really important that we think about using the business end of things here, the people like me, a business person, and other business people, to give suggestions of how to save money. This is what we do to stay alive. This is one of the main things that a business person does. And we have, we're still here, so we must be doing something right. And I think if we had an organization or a commission that was of 5, 6 really good business people in town or more, I don't think you need to limit it, but that would be an excellent way of getting information on how to do it. We would look into what we're doing and make suggestions on what works for us. And I'm sure there are some things that we could contribute. So back to, unfortunately, I'm going to mention Pennsylvania again. But I was looking at the tax rates of the places that were really bad, and they go up to 8% of the value of the property per year they charge. That's huge. And then people are moving out. They're leaving, going to other counties where the prices are not good. I'm also expecting, my time's up, I'd like to have, if I could have another 10 seconds or so. I'm planning on bringing a business here where we're going to have about 200 to 300 employees within the first 2 years. And I'm not going to do it if the taxes go up. I'm going to go find some places cheaper. So, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thanks.
Okay, before I get started, to begin with, at the last public meeting, I did ask for information, but you, Jeff Wood, did not reach out to me. My door's always open as well. And so I did ask the question, I did ask for information, and so my expectations were for you to come to me.
I'm here.
So am I.
So, but you
And
made,
you know where I live.
I don't want to argue, but you made a lot of bold statements without ever reaching out.
I don't want to
so-
do an us against them kind of thing. Right
Fair
now.
enough.
Just wanted to make sure that you knew that my door's open as well as yours. I'm a citizen. You are an elected official. Municipal service funds are statutorily created tools intended to account for county services and funding. The goal is to align services with funding so that the benefit goes to the person paying for it. In Utah, counties are statutorily permitted to provide municipal-type services to areas of the county outside the limits of cities and towns without providing the same services to cities or towns. The statute also provides details as to what counties can provide and what funding may be used to pay for those services. There have been some concerns with how counties are paying for the services they offer to residents in unincorporated areas. This is quoted directly from the performance audit of 2010. Periodic service, and this is one thing I asked for, was a service and cost analysis, and I didn't hear anything about it. I think it's beneficial. It came from the Audit General, and his recommendations on that audit were done as well. Counties that chose or are required to have a municipal service fund should perform a service cost review, and in doing so, identify how much of the cost can be attributed to unincorporated county residences versus incorporated city residences. Also quoted directly from the performance audit of 2010. I'm requesting that the municipal service fund be dissolved because it is not used correctly by Utah Code 17-36-1, the Uniform Fiscal Procedures Act for counties. The Audit General stated concerns that counties and cities may be inappropriately subsidizing municipal-type services, and that is what is going on with the municipal service fund in Carbon County.
Right. So what you said there was that cities and municipalities are subsidizing services provided to out-county.
No, that's not what I said.
That's what it just said.
No, that's not what I said at all.
Okay.
And you had also put up on your screen $2.2 million for the Sheriff's Department going into the Municipal Service Fund. That's the total amount for the Sheriff's Department, paying for by the unincorporated people. The following counties are Class 4. This is based on population: Carbon, Duchesne, Millard, San Juan, San Pete, Sevier, Uintah, and Wasatch. From 2018 transparent.utah.gov, Carbon and Uintah are the only counties using a municipal service fund. Uintah County's municipal service fund expense for 2018 was $894,768.38. Carbon County is budgeting $6.8 million in 2020. By these numbers, it looks as though Uintah County is not subsidizing a department, but it sure looks like Carbon County is doing something wrong. Rural County municipal services are provided from the general fund. Because there are no statutory restrictions on the provisions of municipal services by 4th class through 6th class counties, rural counties are not in violation of Utah
Correct.
Code 17-36-9 2A.
They're not required to have a municipal services fund, but they are highly recommended to have one. It's recommended that fourth-class counties have a municipal
If you'll let
services
me
fund.
finish the rest of the statement from that audit,
Go
it
ahead.
says, which requires a municipal service fund of first-class through third-class counties. Most fourth-class through sixth-class counties sampled pay for municipal service funds through their counties from their general funds. Many rural counties sampled provided services to all residents of the county, whether they live in the incorporated areas or not. That's also quoted from the 2010 performance audit.
And that doesn't contradict what I indicated.
let me
And
finish.
the recommendation is that there be a municipal services fund.
From page 2 of the performance audit, fourth class through sixth class counties or rural counties are not required to have a specific funds separating these services funding. However, they continue to provide some municipal type services to county residents. The rural counties generally pay for their services from their general fund. Also, although rural counties are not required to separate their funding from their general funds, Utah Code 17-34-1 obligates all counties to try to match their funding and services as much as possible without a municipal service fund. Again, there is no need for Carbon County to have a municipal service fund. And that is a direct quote from that audit. Instead of levying a tax, I recommend that the county charge a service charge or fee to persons benefiting from the municipal type services or provide funds to a municipal service district, which is in accordance with section 17B-2A-1109. Fifth class counties use a special service district to provide their services to the unincorporated areas in their counties. This should be looked into for the county. I also agree with whoever did the sales tax thing. I think that's a wonderful idea. And get rid of this municipal service fund because it's not being used correctly. I also spoke about the service cost analysis from the last public hearing. This is highly recommended by the Audit General. Highly recommended. Doing a service cost analysis will answer all the questions as to whether us unincorporated residents are actually getting the services we are paying for. Again, looking at Uena County with an 894,000 MSF looks reasonable. A $6.8 million MSF, not so much. From the last public hearing in November 2019, I would still like to know what has happened, and Casey has told me about some of the money with the Southeastern Utah's Health Department, that's just in, out, and that's their money and it went with them. The $3.1 million that was increased from royalty revenue from the selling of coal.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
And this won't count into your time. So that's money that, it's mineral money basically. And this year, we received 90,000. That's it. Last year, we received 2.4. We, if you remember last year, there was no budget. We balanced our budget, but it was off of the surplus that we received that year. So that $2.4 million, we bought road chips and everything that we needed to operate through this year. So when it's there, you can use them in that fund. But when it's not there, this year we're in 2020 we're budgeting 100,000, 50, because the money there, as it was talked about earlier, we don't have an active coal mine in our community. So where are we going to receive mineral monies to go towards that fund? That money is no longer coming in.
Okay, so
that's kind of the answer to that.
Okay.
It was there. Because Skyline sold some coal that they had in a pile. It's not there.
Okay. What about the PELT money? That PELT money used to go into the municipal service fund. It's not showing as a revenue going in there for 2020.
We still receive PILT money.
I know you do. It shows going into the general fund, and that's the way it's supposed to go into. But why isn't it going into the municipal service fund?
There's $500,000 of it that's going to the municipal service fund.
Okay, it doesn't show in your budget.
It does.
Well,
it's a trans.
the one I looked at today, I didn't see PELT money.
It's at the bottom of Fund 10 in miscellaneous
Okay,
contributions.
on Municipal Service Fund 20?
No.
It doesn't show in the revenue?
No. In the bottom of Fund 10, the last department,
I understand 10 is general fund.
and it
Municipal
shows money, shows 500,000 going from Fund 10 to Fund 20.
Okay, so I didn't see it going into the revenue aspect on Fund 20 today. I didn't see it.
Check the revenues again, it's there.
And it's listed under, what's the name on it?
Contribution from Fund 10.
It says exactly that, contribution from Fund 10. Okay. That also showed a change on the Municipal Service Fund where Carbon County Recreation Transportation Special Service District, it showed a 2019 amount there at one time. It's not showing that anymore. And then, we used to get that as well in the Municipal Service Fund. Why did they take that out of 2019?
It was never in the 2019. It has been in there previously because we received more money, mineral lease money that we no longer receive through the Special Service District, and that's what was subsidizing the Municipal Services Fund and the services that you receive in the Out County. That's why we have to raise the Municipal Services levy, is because that funding is no longer available.
Well, I know, but what I'm asking you is a few months ago when I looked at that
It's never been in the 2019 budget. Money received from the municipal.
It showed in the revenue aspect in 2019.
It'll show in Fund 10.
And then it showed 0 for 2020 to carry over for the next year.
It'll show in Fund 10 and Fund 56 for the last couple of years. That's the only places we've
I should
received.
have printed it off just so I could prove it
Sure,
to you.
bring it into my office.
Well,
I'd love
no,
to see
it's
it.
not there anymore. That's what I'm saying. 2 months ago it was there. Now it's not there. Okay, so, and I think we did that one. And then what about the 5.9 million ending balance for the Municipal Service Fund that showed on the financial statement 2018?
So again, like we read earlier, at the end of the year is when we collect our taxes. So the ending balance shows what we have to operate for the entire year, for the next year. Because that's when, because taxes are due in November, they're dispersed in December, and that's what we have to operate for the following year. And so our balance is always the highest at the end of the year. But
On
you
the
have to look
financial
at,
statement shows a beginning balance of 5-something million, and then it shows all your expense, all the revenue that came in, all the expenses went out. And in 2018, there was an extra 38,000. Then it showed another 5.9 million balance left.
and
So
maybe I'm misunderstanding. Seth, can you?
it's on the financial statement, not in your budget, the financial statement.
You're right, and what he's saying is that we receive money at the end of the year to be used in the next year. The majority of that comes into Fund 10. In Fund 20, 2 million of that is restricted. It's B&C road money. The rest of it is unrestricted, and
Right.
it's available to be used.
And where did that go? Or where is it?
It's still in fund balance in Fund 20,
So it's $3 million sitting in Fund 20
approximately.
for next year.
Correct.
And we're looking at 2.2 million?
And we're looking at a $6.8 million budget.
No, you're looking at now, you need to throw that back up there.
I'd love you to stop by my office. I'd love to go through
Well,
it
I
with
know,
you.
I would love for all these people to hear this.
Well, I'm giving answers, and
I know,
and
but
you're,
you guys had up a minute ago from Tony's property tax thing that showed what your increases were going to be, and one of them was $2.2 million for the sheriff's department. And so if we've got an extra $3 million, what are you guys looking at us for? And you want it to go 6.8, I know what you're looking at us for. Bring the budget up. Show that municipal service fund budget to everybody. And explain to everybody what it is. I'm sure you have it on your computers. If you don't, I can find it for you. It's under carbon.utah.gov, budget 2020 tentative. And you're not going to do it. Okay.
Cheryl, the biggest challenge here is this is not as easy as it sounds for anybody to comprehend and understand at all. So
It's Larry. When you put the budget up, if you can read English, one line item says building inspection. Another line item says animal control.
I know that.
If you can comprehend English, then you would know that these are sections of that municipal service fund.
It's a long list that we don't have time tonight to go clear
It's 2
through.
pages. Anyways, I want to know also the 3 categories that have been double taxed on that municipal service fund that's showing on your tentative 2020 budget. You've got animal control line item, another animal control line item. I brought this up last time. And then a predator control. That's 3 things that have to do with animals. Now, goofy me, that sounds like we're taxing 3 different line items. You've got city police under the contracted, there's a line item in there that's called contracted county contracts, and it has a listing of price, or city police, fire, city fire, animal control, and it has a dollar amount of $894,000. Now, I said this last time. I can see us unincorporated people paying the $894,000. The 2020 budget shows those 3 different categories, referring to the, and like I just said, again, Uinta counties.
Stop right there for a second. The animal control thing, one of those, the predator control, is a fee we pay to the, I think, the federal government to do take care of predators. So that's a totally separate line item. The other 2.
It's $14,000, and they give us $7,000 back at the end of the year. So it's a $7,000, and it's the guy that goes out and does the trapping throughout the unincorporated. That's part of the contract that we have with the state.
And has that person ever been in Price City to kill a skunk? Or Wellington City to get a raccoon? Why is us unincorporated people, why is that a line item for us?
These are coyotes and things out in the out county that they're taking care of.
I don't live that. I live in the unincorporated area, but I'm paying to collect, coyotes and something out that doesn't have nothing to do with me. Again, Uinta County shows, shows $839,000. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's reasonable. I also have another question about Wolverine Mine. Wolverine Mine, I heard, if this tax increase goes through, they're closing. So you guys talk about mineral leases. You guys are tanking your own mineral leases that we could have benefits from. So if you guys increase that, I guess we won't have any mineral lease money to work on. And economic development. Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments, whoever brought up economic development, I can't remember who that was. The Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments is here in Price, and they have their own economic development department. I think really that we shouldn't have to be paying for that anymore when they have a full line service of people that write grants and do things for economic development for our county, as well as 3 other counties. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, that concludes all of the public comments that have signed in. I think at this point we've got a list of questions that we can address. We can kind of trade off. Let me get to the right spot. Tony, what's that?
Do we need to close the hearing then?
Yes, we do.
Motion to close the public hearing. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public portion of the hearing is closed. I'm going to go through some of these questions specific. Kathy talked about the Schofield area and the lack of services up there. I think it's important for everybody to understand that the state statute requires that we cannot pick and choose when taxes are levied. They are levied against all properties at the same rate. So for those who live in Schofield, the Schofield area, for the value of their home, they're taxed at the same rate as those here in Carbon County in the unincorporated area. So it's not something we can pick and choose on doing that. The amount of money that it takes to operate the county government is shared by everybody equally based on the value of their home. Dale Terry, you made a comment about better trusted than loved. It'd be real easy not to do this tonight. And you've all made comments, none of us will be here in 4 years. I didn't come here to be reelected. I came here because we have a problem, and I stepped forward to try to help. So regardless of how you feel, I'm not here to be reelected. I have no interest in politics, and I think these two men that sit next to me are the same. We have no agenda here. Gordon, increased sales and the economic development. There's a huge thing that you people don't understand. There's a ton of effort going on locally in economic development. We partner with the AOG, Cheryl. We're in meetings weekly with not only them, but a community economic council that's comprised of local businesses and all the agencies, all the cities, and any volunteer who wants to step forward and try to help. And there are huge efforts going into economic development to bring people here. So those comments, you don't understand. We are tirelessly working on that. And in regards to that, we talked a little bit about wages. I make $25 an hour if I work 40 hours a week. Well, in almost 12 months, I'm making less than $20 an hour. So those of you who think, now, all of you have this thing in your mind about you see the benefit part. When you look at the government entities, which it's public information, for you to see what the three of us or any employee basically makes, those numbers include the benefits. But when you refer to your wages, you never include those things. So I've been in business 38 years, I get it. So there's parts of this that you leave out. Mail, no tax increase, layoff people. Casey, how many people have we reduced in the last, since 2015?
So in 2015, we had 195 full-time employees. Today we have 149. That's a difference of 46 full-time employees. We had 104 part-time employees. We have 75. That's a difference of 29 employees. And our seasonals, we had 8, and we have 2.
How many millions are we saving there?
Depending on the wages, anywhere from probably 3 to 4 million.
Okay. Sell assets. We'd love to sell some of it. Find somebody to buy it, and we'll be happy to sell it.
That right there is a ship's paradigm.
We're open to anything. You find somebody that might want to purchase one of these facilities and take it over. The payments, so that the payments are part of what kills it too. So.
Okay, just a minute. We can't have people shouting out things from the audience because the minutes require that we have people's names on the record, and if we start doing this, it's not going to end. So if the commission wants to recognize someone, they have the right to do so. But I recommend we not allow comments from the public in general.
So Commissioner, can I add a little bit to that? So we've looked aggressively at some of our facilities at trying to find public-private partnerships, the gun range being one of them. We reached out to Barnes Bullets several years ago because Barnes Bullets at one point was testing their ammunition at our gun range. They were driving over the mountain, and we tried to reach out to them and have them be a sponsor or even run the gun range so that they could use it for free. And it didn't work. We also reached out to companies like Front Sight, who is a what would you call them, Jeff? Tactical training group, to see if they would come out and operate it, and then they would have free run of teaching people tactical training. I think there's still hope for that. We have one of the best gun ranges in the maybe the world. No, it's a fantastic gun range, but we have reached out, like I said before, we did the same thing on the motocross track because there was an individual said he would maintain it and operate it. And that one didn't see as good a light, but I still see that there's an opportunity for some of the facilities, if we can find the right partner, to do public-private partnerships. That's not off the table.
Yeah, we're open to that. No, the public hearing's over. Jim, we're going to answer questions here. Mel Coonrod suggested the county doesn't do anything in his subdivision. Mel Coonrod developed that subdivision, and he chose not to do anything to bring the roads to the standards that the county requires. And so the county does not own those roads. The people in the subdivision do, and they're required to take care of their own things, including dragging their garbage can all the way out to the highway, because we cannot go in on the small roads that are there. Paul Colosimo, you're wondering about county vehicles taken home. The only vehicles that go home are those that are required to be on call for emergency purposes 24 hours a day. And it's a small handful of people. And some of them were hesitant to even take them home, but we've told them we want them to, because we don't want them to have to drive from their home to the county offices to respond to an emergency. Okay? Delinquent property taxes. There is a Christian, tell us.
I'd love to answer
legally.
this question. There is no mechanism by which we can go after delinquent property taxes until they are 5 years delinquent. And the only way, and that's by state law, we cannot file suit against somebody in justice court or district court. The only way we can do it is we can hold a tax sale and give them the opportunity to redeem those taxes at the end of the 5-year period of delinquency. And I can guarantee you the treasurer's office keeps a running list of that. She knows every delinquency. She knows every property that needs to go up for sale. And they go up for sale. And more often than not, they're redeemed. But until that 5-year period expires, there is nothing we can legally do. Otherwise, we'll all be subject to 1983 suits, and we'll all go to jail if we even attempt to collect those in some way. I can tell you penalties and interest attach to delinquent taxes. So there's not a benefit to waiting to pay those, because in the end those penalties are substantial and the interest is substantial. But we have to follow the state procedure. We do not have an option for other ways of collecting those.
Thank you, Christian. Question about unemployment is up this year in the county. That's not true. Workforce services is part of our economic development efforts. We get monthly updates, and unemployment is down in our county. Taxing those who are doing well, that's impossible. We collect taxes by property tax, so everybody pays the same amount. One of you want to take over for a minute? Go
If I
ahead.
could too, just on the, the basically saying that the economy is not doing so good in Carbon County. Like Larry said, we have talked to the workforce services people, and we actually are seeing house sales increase and house starts in this county are up. They're not significant, but we actually are talking to developers and trying to entice them and let them know that the need for housing is critical in this area. The state has identified that. The Association of Counties has identified that. And we are working with developers, as I say, to develop at least 40 to 50 houses a year, if not more. And that's just for one industry that's looking to move in. That number is going to go up. We know that. We're certain of that. We have good economic indicators down the road. These are not things that we're making up. This is information that's being shared with us. Quite honestly, to say that we're not doing anything, I think the part of that is you're right. Larry and I and Casey are not doing anything. We're not building any new buildings. We're not spending any extra money. We're just scrimping along as best we can. Some of the comments that we get from individuals aren't helpful. We're here trying to do the best that we can with what we were given, with the situation of this county when we inherited it. That is all we're trying to do. The threats, and you hear it all over the place. They had their hearings up in Provo about, you guys won't be here next year. I'm the same as Larry. I'm not doing this to get reelected. I'm doing this because that's the right thing to do. And if people don't understand that today, they will down the road. Because this area is going to start growing. We're getting away from the coal industries, the power industries that we've been all familiar with. And we're changing. We're growing into something different. And I know people don't like change. That's what they're used to. The coal is not coming back. If you talk to coal companies, they're going where the easy coal is. Has nothing to do with anything that we say, the governor says, the president says. These businesses, if they can make a profit, they will go after the coal. As any old coal miner knows, the easy coal is gone, like I said. The coal is not coming back. There's no way. Now here's other opportunities, if I could, things that we're being looked at. How about the inland port? People have heard about the inland port. There's possibilities of us becoming an energy port, or possibly, as what they've told us, is don't worry what you can send out, but what you guys can receive. Manufacturers from around the area are looking at Carbon County. If that inland port comes into Salt Lake, we will be a satellite hub. And the example they gave was that Tennessee. Tennessee became an inland port, and they had a satellite that actually received parts from a company called BMW. And they assemble cars in Tennessee and sell them across the United States. We can look at that same opportunity here. So we have opportunities to be something different, and we are trying to do the right thing here. Whether that's understood or not tonight, I understand when you're mad you don't hear, you just want to get your points out. But there are good things coming to this area. It's just different than what we're used to.
Commissioner, if I can address a few things. The idea of a countywide sales tax, and maybe Christian can help me if I steer outside of this, but from my understanding, and I'm happy to look into this, but from my understanding, sales tax is something that the state regulates. What we can regulate are property taxes. So, but if there's an opportunity, for example, several years ago, there was an opportunity to, and it was actually voted on by the public body, by all of us, all of you, to have a 0.25% increase on our gas tax that would go directly to roads. As a body, that was allowed by the state. The state allowed us to have that additional 0.25 or whatever it was, 0.0025% tax on roads or on gas, so that we could have additional road funding. And it had to be passed by every county that wanted to use it. So every county that did that had to go to the public body, put it on the ballot, and have it voted on. So if I'm not mistaken, and I'll be happy to look into this further, sales tax is directed by the state. That's why they're talking about it with the legislature. But we'll look into it some more. Do you have any insight on that, Christian?
I think that's correct. They're very limited. Sometimes an opportunity is given to raise, for example, the restaurant tax or the hotel tax. The problem with that tax is that money is not allowed to be put into the general fund. It can only be used for the limited purpose of tourism promotion. So there comes a point where you can increase that, but it doesn't help our general coffers. Can't be used to add another patrol deputy. And I've got a couple points when you're done.
Okay. The other thing about the gas tax, the reason why it benefited us so much is that 50% was at point of sale. So in our community, 50% of that came directly back to us. The other 50% was put into a pot. As we all know, most of us travel up north. We buy a lot of gas, we buy a lot of groceries, we do a lot of things in Provo and Salt Lake. When they opted in, their money was also put into that pot. 50% of their funds were put into that pot and redistributed to all of the counties. So we actually came out ahead by having them in that pot. So for us, it was a good move to have that 0.25 or whatever it was, 0.0025% tax on our gas tax, because we were able to receive more funds because of all the money that's spent on the Wasatch Front. Because so many people, more people buy fuel up there than they do here. Moving on to another one, the free money. We don't deal with the schools, but as a county, we do go after a lot of grants. Some of our departments are almost fully funded with grant funds. The Children's Justice Center is almost fully funded. Now every grant comes with a match. So every time we go after a grant, we have to be able to match that money with our own county dollars. And so for Children's Justice Center, we take and we go after these grants and almost fully fund the whole center. Now, we do some fundraisers in the community to help pay for some of the activities and some of the things that happen at the Children's Justice Center. Economic Development received several grants last year to help them with economic development. Tourism has leveraged its money that we receive from restaurant and tourism to further its dollars. And these are larger amounts, like 70, 80,000, 100,000. We are actively searching out grants. I believe it was Tony went and actually did some work with the coal-impacted communities this year.
With NACO.
With NACO. It's part of the National Association of Counties. So we are actively trying to reach out and get those funds to help our community. We're aware of most of those. If you hear of any, please let us know. We're happy to work on those.
Commissioners, the essential point for this audience to know is those grants typically almost never allow you to supplant your own spending with grant money. Almost all grant money has to be supplemental to what you're already spending. And so it does not help us reduce our general fund. For example, we've received a significant grant to help pay for public defender costs in the county. But a condition of that grant is that the county not reduce any of its funds that it's paying towards public defenders. And almost all grants are like that. They're very specialized to allow specialized equipment to be bought. Again, you're not going to find a grant out there that says, here's some money you can use to pay for your deputies so you don't have to use your general fund. I guarantee there's not a grant out there that says that. But we have dozens of grants in place, and the Sheriff's Office is probably one of the best offices out there for finding these grants and finding ways to have the top technology that's available.
Emergency service is one of those. I don't remember how much money we bring in, but it's a substantial amount through emergency services in grant funding.
There's probably $700,000 in grants between the Children's Justice Center and the emergency services.
But that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. As far as contractors who built local facilities, there was an effort to use as many local contractors, but when you put something out to bid, you tell them that you want them to use as many as possible. They solicit bids from the local contractors, and they bring back the lowest price. So if our local contractors are not the lowest, in order to keep the cost down on building the buildings. And we did use a fair amount of local contractors on some of the buildings. I wasn't here for all of them. But that's an emphasis that I know has been pushed out, of trying to put leverage on those that can do an entire project to use as many local contractors as possible.
I just also say that each of the projects that have ever been built have been bid, and the local contractors have the ability to bid on those. So most of the jobs were a little too big for the local contractors, but a lot of the subcontract work was done by locals.
There was a question about the health care that the county employees receive. When I came to the county, it was 100% paid for. 2 years ago, we passed a 95.5, and last year we moved it to a 90.10, and pushed that onto the employees. So now every employee, without receiving any wages, where's the skin in the game that people have asked, are now had a reduction of their pay to pay for their insurance, and it's made, and it's a good thing, because it's made better consumers out of us. We look at all of our costs, and not to mention the other thing that we did is we went to a high deductible plan, which substantially lowered the amount that the county pays. With a high deductible plan, 100% of the cost is on the county employee, all up front. That was a substantial hit to our employees, but it was a big savings to all of us as residents of the community. One thing and this is a little bit hard to understand and even to express is property values. Every year, and we talked a little bit about it with centrally assessed properties in the Schofield area and throughout the entire county. The way that works is as values go up, the rate goes down. As values go down, the rate goes up. We in our county have been blessed with mines, natural gas, the railroad, telecoms, Verizon, AT&T. We have a lot of those, and they're substantial taxpayers. But every year, those taxpayers come in and they fight down their taxes. So every year, the rate or the value goes down because they're in here fighting down their taxes. Every year, you and we pay a little bit more for what they're not paying. That's a centrally assessed shift. And although we pay more, the county, the school district, any of the taxing entities do not receive any more money. We pay more, I get that. Every year my taxes go up too. But as a public body, we don't have any more money to operate, any more money to fund the services, because it's a shift in taxation because of the slide. I hope that helps people understand what has been happening. To the point in the general fund, we are unable to tax. That's an answer to one of the other questions. We are unable to tax in the general fund because the centrally assessed, not because we have raised taxes to get more money, but because the centrally assessed shift has completely removed our ability to tax the entire county. Emory County's been like that for 15 or more years. They've been like that, well, I shouldn't throw out numbers like that. They've been that way for a long time because they have so many power plants, and every year those power plants decrease in value, and they have been unable to raise their general property taxes for a substantial amount of time, to the point Emory County is about 50% centrally assessed. Carbon County, we're not quite 50%, but we have a heavy centrally assessed tax burden. that shifts almost constantly onto us as property owners.
If I could jump in real quick one more time. So the Municipal Service Fund tax was started in 1986. The mineral lease money was not taken into the county, was not received into the county until 1988. So basically, the mineral lease money, the coal extraction of our area caused that municipal fund was never raised. That's why it's so low. Somebody said, why didn't they take the initiative to increase that over the years? I wish that would have happened. I wish that really would have happened. Uena County's going to see the same thing. They went from $36 million in mineral lease money last year to 11 this year. They've been living high on the hog. Their municipal fund is low, which they did the exact same thing Carbon County did. And I guarantee in a couple of years, you're going to hear that tax is going to have to go up from those guys. We can sit here and say we should have done this, we should have done that. Yeah, we could. It's kind of like we're all in a vehicle driving down the road, and it's one of these snowy nights, and we slide off the side of the road, and we start complaining about you're driving too fast, the roads weren't plowed, the tires were bad, whatever it is. We're still stuck on the side of the road. Somebody needs to take the initiative, get us back on the road, get us going in the right direction that we need to go in, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do here.
If I can take a couple more greenbelt taxes that was brought up. Greenbelt taxes are like any other property tax. They're all taxed the same. Now, greenbelt taxes have a reduced rate, but they also have, you have to prove the greenbelt status. You have to run your cows on it. You have to do those things, but it's taxed at a much lower rate. But they're subject to all of the same taxes regardless of what the use is. It's like it doesn't matter if you have a house on the property or it's greenbelt and you're just running cows on it. You get the lower rate because it's greenbelt, but it has all of the same line items on it. Does that make sense? Okay. Besides, well, I don't know, Seth wasn't even here, and maybe Christian can help me on this one. Why was the sheriff's office moved into the Municipal Services Fund? My question, why was it moved out 2 years prior to that? When the 2010 audit was done, the sheriff's office was in the Municipal Services Fund. Seth Ovesen, who was the clerk auditor at the time, came to us and recommended that we move it out, or at least portions of it. And as the clerk auditor, that was his recommendation, and we moved it out. And it was probably a mistake, because in the 2010 audit, it said it should have been in there where the services are provided. Do you have anything to add on that,
No,
Christian?
I think that's correct. That's the best place for it. And if you're not forbidden from supplementing your municipal services fund with general fund money or providing municipal services fund type services with general fund money. But the recommendation is that it's best accounted for and most visible and easiest to be seen if those municipal type services are provided for out of the municipal type services fund. So that's the best place for it. It's not necessarily the only place, but it is the best place for it. And it's why all counties, first through third class counties, are required to do that.
I have one or two.
Okay, Seth.
I think it was Amy Dinkelman that asked about doing an appraisal and if it was different than her assessed value was by the assessor. Hopefully I understood the question correctly. The answer, I think, to the question was that if you have an appraisal done, you can bring that to our Board of Equalization and fight your value. And it's been my experience that anytime you have an appraisal done, they'll move it to that appraisal value for that year. I think the question was also whether or not you could go back years and have that change and have taxes refunded. You can't do that, unfortunately. But on the flip side, we don't do that. We had Price River Terminal this year that was for years has been essentially assessed, and they assessed it at a couple $100,000. We complained to them this year. They went and looked at it and realized that it was worth, I don't know what it was, 13 million?
Almost 14.
So we wish we could go back, 2-3 years and receive that value that's been there, but in the same vein, it's, we don't do the same thing. Unfortunately, that's the case. Hopefully that answered your question.
In regards to that one there too, there's been, there's some of you who have watched the value of your home go up. Well, what's happening, there are 2 areas the state came in and told our assessor that you have to raise taxes in the Schofield area and in an area in Price because the state tracks the sale of homes. And when the values go up, the state mandates that those assessed values go up. So in the Schofield area, you folks who have cabins up there, there are people selling their cabins and they're selling them for a lot of money. So that's why your value goes up. And the same in an area here in Price.
So the state law, just to add on to that, the state law mandates Julie's office, the assessors, to be within 95 and 105 of actual value. So if the homes around you are selling for a portion more, in Schofield area, it was 30% more than what she had as general values. The state was the one, like Larry said, that went in and said, the homes in that area are selling for 30% more than what you actually have them valued at. You will raise the whole area 30%. That's where that came from. It was state law that mandated that.
If I can answer just 1 or 2 more.
Yes.
Cheryl had a question about the money in Fund 20. The truth of the matter is that money that is not restricted, whether it be in Fund 20 or Fund 10, is all in the same bank account. And if you were to look at our financials in November or October, you would see that our Fund 10 is negative, meaning that we're using money that's not there. It's in the bank account, but as far as accounting goes, it's not in Fund 10, and that's that money that's in Fund 20. When we receive money for property taxes at the end of the year, we receive nearly $7 million into our general fund. You'll see that our fund balance at the end of the year, right after we receive that, is nearly $4.5 million. There's a big difference there between the $7 million that we received weeks before and what our balance is at $4.5 million. That's because our general fund doesn't have enough money to support itself through the year. That's your answer. We're, in essence, borrowing from Fund 20, although it could get us in trouble, to be honest with you. But that's the situation that we're in. Also, there's been a lot of questions about having an audit done on the Municipal Services Fund. And it would be, if we did have one done, not only would it be very costly, but it would be very similar to this audit that was done in 2010. They would take and look at services that are municipal services. They would probably take the Sheriff's Department, our county contracts, and the road department, which is over $4 million in expenses just there. They would look at those and say, what is funding those? And then they would look at our municipal services tax, which is from the people that are receiving those services, and they would say, obviously, the services that are provided to the out county residents is being subsidized by people who are not in the out county. And they would say that something needed to change there. So if we had an audit done, it actually wouldn't help the case here. It would prove the case that something needs to be done with that levy.
Just a minute. You need to be formally recognized by the chair of the body, of the legislative body.
Go ahead, Cheryl. Come to the podium.
With that being the case, back in 2010, the Municipal Service Fund was down to like down to the $35 that we're paying in our for that line item. That's going to go up to $313. So it's not the same. The 2010 audit, it recommends, the Audit General recommends that the counties do a service cost analysis. Correct. So that you can see that. So if by what you're saying is correct, then that means we should stay at our $35 or $37 and not go up to $313, because we are matching what we were doing back in 2010. And 2010
No,
states...
that was not my point. My point was that today, municipal services are over $4 million. And what the residents in the out county provide to pay for those services is $300,000. There's $3.7 million there.
There was also mineral lease money. There was all these
There
other
was mineral lease money. You're exactly correct. There is not anymore.
Right.
You're exactly right. So back then, that's exactly what was happening. Money was coming from the Special Service District to the Municipal Services Fund
and
to
Pelt.
subsidized.
And Pelt.
Right, and it still is.
But I didn't see it. Anyways, I'm going to go home and look at that and see, because it wasn't there today. Anyways, if we go back to that 2010, I still am recommending a service cost analysis, regardless of what you say. You're not an economist, and I don't believe you're an accountant, but those are the people that would actually...
I don't believe you're a financial expert either.
Okay.
But I'm a citizen trying to figure out a problem, Seth.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay?
Cheryl.
Thank you.
And I'm not, and this is not me against you. I'm trying to figure out a problem here.
I have no hard feelings towards you or anyone here or anything that's been said.
At me, as if
Because you're incorrect. That is not what that audit said.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Anyways,
Thank you,
Cheryl, please sit down. Thank you.
That's
Couple more things. Coal coming out of Skyline Mine. Coal trucks are running by all the time. That coal is being mined in Sanpete County. We receive part of the mineral lease money because it is those trucks are running through our county and the mine impacts our county, but it's a very reduced amount. Clear Creek snow removal. The homes in Clear Creek with the county, we get $12,130 from all the homes in Clear Creek. That comes directly to the county. The rest of it goes to the school district and other places. So $12,130. And last year we spent almost $20,000 plowing snow in Clear Creek. So this, it was accused in the last meeting that we don't do anything in Clear Creek. So your dollars are subsidizing that little town.
Commissioner, may I mention one real quick?
Yes.
There was a suggestion made that we impose an additional surcharge on criminal defendants appearing in court. Or actually, the suggestion was that the sheriff just unilaterally opposed that, but he can't do that, and I don't believe this body can do that either. There is already a significant surcharge imposed by the state of Utah that is earmarked for running the justice court and for covering costs in the justice court. So that's already assessed. And we can't just simply add additional surcharges. You'll find that most fines are very steep, are significant, and are difficult for those people who receive them to pay. A lot of times they're paying those back at the rate of $25 a month or less. And so a lot of these fines, they're just not going to make up a significant deficit. And you cannot use a fine just to, or the county can't just use a fine in lieu of a tax. So it has to go towards operations and show that it backs up the cost of the process of booking and fining and dealing with a criminal defendant. The other thing is the county attorney's office always requests that defendants pay back something towards their use of public defenders. So this is being done commonly in the state, and Carbon County is doing that as well, asking that when a criminal defendant is sentenced, that the judge impose a de minimis amount. Actually, we're asking for as much as the judge will allow, but it turns out to be quite de minimis. But that money is used and is intended to go back to the county for payment of criminal defense attorneys. So the county's trying to collect some of that money there. That is, we're getting basically as much as we're going to get from these people that are coming into court.
the AOG.
Yes.
I've got one too. I want to talk about, it was mentioned about the AOG and we should work with them. We have for several years. And it was just in the paper, you may have seen about the coal strike team and an MOU that was signed. That was generally garnered through the AOG and their efforts and through a company you may have heard of called Google. The Smith family has put a lot of money into this redevelopment areas. There were a few cities that were lucky enough to be a part of this this fundraising. The coal strike team has received several $100,000 from the Smith family. This money will be used in conjunction with opportunities in both Carbon and Emery County. The state legislature gave the coal strike team $500,000. We're looking to get more for next year to do more things. Housing is one of the big asks for this area. But this MOU is between Carbon and Emery County, the University of Utah, USU Eastern, the AOG's office, and it's unprecedented. Has not happened before. So as far as working with the AOG, yeah, we were doing a little bit with them.
Can I talk a little bit about working with Emery County? I don't know what the relationship with Emery County was prior to us as a commission, but I can tell you that we meet regularly with Emery County. They supported us in our ask to the Utah State University to have the aviation program here, and they're working with us currently to go after an EDA grant that would allow us to build a facility, allow the university to build a facility that would bring the maintenance part of that aviation program here, which would add additional students and additional opportunity to our county. As well as working here, we are working in Emery County on the San Rafael Research Center. The legislature funded, it was over $1 million to help put in some infrastructure for that research center. That research center will be a molten salt nuclear research center that will allow them to study and help advance the idea of thorium reactors or molten salt reactors. The other thing that research center has is the University of Utah had a coal combustion furnace, basically. It was a mini power plant that was donated through some funding from the state legislature to that research center in the hopes that we can find alternate uses for the coal and also test other combustibles. One of the projects, if it goes, is in the end of January. There's a possibility of having a company out of England come and use that furnace because they've gone completely away from coal and they want to burn their wood chips in there to test how they inject them, how they're burned so that they can get the best BTUs for the fuels that they're using. There's another part of that research center that's looking at developing the coal to fuels. And if that's another opportunity for us to use our coal, if we can help develop the technology to use our coal for alternate source or alternate uses like fuel. The University of Utah is still in the middle of a study. This is separate from the research center. Is still in the middle of researching what coal can be used for, like carbon fiber. If that happens, and they can create a high-strength, low-cost carbon fiber, that opens up a whole new market for coal and its ability to be used for automobiles. It's stronger than steel in some regards, and it's much lighter than steel. So if that research proves out, there's alternate uses for some of the resources we have in our community. So we are working with Emery County. Long story, sorry.
Thank you. Seth, do you have anything in closing?
I don't. I'm glad there's so many people here commenting. I think this is a healthy part of the process. And my heart goes out. And at the beginning of this process, that was my first comment to the commissioners, that this is going to affect those who can't afford it the most. And so my heart goes out to you. You have to understand that each of us also received the same notices that you did and have the same burden. We all live in the Out County. I know that doesn't help you in any way. To say that the commissioners don't have integrity or are not working hard is just simply not true. I appreciate all the comments, but those I just don't understand them. They're not helpful, and they're not true. And not re-electing these gentlemen, if they run again, I think is a huge mistake because they have done a phenomenal job.
Thanks, Seth. Christian, do you have anything to follow up?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Casey? No, we're done. Casey?
I just want you to know this is not an easy decision. Not only does it affect my family, me personally, my parents that live out there in Wellington. I hope someday I can be half the man my dad is, just like you had said. But I also know that we can't continue to kick the can down the road. They did it in Tooele County. If you want to go look and research, ask questions, they did it in Tooele County. They kicked the can down the road till there was no more funding. The state stepped in and made them do it. And they had no control over their destiny. None. They said, you will raise it by this much, and you will fire all these people. What we're trying to do here is a tough decision. 50 people are no longer employed here at the county. And most of those were through attrition, through planning on the commission's part to say, you know what, we see this coming. We're not going to rehire this position. But there was a substantial amount that we had to lay off a few years ago, and that hurts me. That was a decision I had to make. And I have to look those people in the eye every time I see them around town. That's not an easy decision, but we're making hard decisions. And you're right, it'll probably cost me my job. And that's hard.
Are you the only one to tell that people?
No.
Okay, we're not accepting comments from the public.
It's a hard decision. I just hope you know that we don't run into this thinking that we can just do whatever we want. We've been working at this. We've looked at a lot of things. It was interesting for me to have 2 new commissioners coming in and looking at things that we've been doing over the past few years and seeing what their comments were. Thanks.
Tony?
Yeah, I'd also like to, I'd like to recognize the team that we have here. Great people, great, amazing people that do a lot of work behind the scenes to make things happen. It seems seamless a lot of the time, but there's a lot of great folks that work here. They have a lot of integrity. Kind of the cast that's thrown in here is that they don't trust us. They don't trust government. They don't trust, I get it. That's fine. You can have your opinion, but I guarantee you these 2 up here are very solid people. They are doing the right thing. They have integrity. We don't always agree on everything. We are not yes men to each other. We have our disagreements, but you know what? We move forward because what's best for you is the most important thing, not our opinions. I would also like to say that this tax increase is not an easy decision. It really is not. I was only into politics from January till now, and yet years ago I saw buildings going up. I saw mines closing. And, you know, I didn't come to commission meetings and protest any of the buildings that are going on. I didn't. But I saw what was happening. I was the silent one. And now that I'm in this chair, which I never thought I would be, never wanted to get into politics, you have to make some hard decisions. And I'm not doing this because of, you know, what tomorrow brings. That's fine. I'm doing what's right. I can sleep at night. I know that we've kicked several ideas around. We have, talked about reducing things. Again, if there's anybody that knows of somebody that wants to buy a facility, we'll sell it. We are not closed-minded. We do not have, well, I almost said it. We have one agenda, and that agenda item is to make Carbon County better again. That is the only thing that we're trying to attempt to do here. Again, we have some really quality people here, and we're trying to do the right thing.
Thank you. I think in closing, I'd just like to say that this boils down to a very simple fact that for a long time, us who live in the county have had a very low municipal tax rate. And for any one of you to look back from today to back to 1986 and see how much of the mineral lease money was added to the tax or to the income to the county to pay for the services you've enjoyed, it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that you've saved. And my brother had a comment that makes sense. He says, if anybody in this valley deserves to be mad, it's me. I live in the city, and I've been paying those taxes all through these years, and you guys haven't. I appreciate all of you coming here tonight. I know that we've not made too many of you happy. I hope we've answered questions. This has been something we've worked on now for a long time. We've weighed all options. There's a few things that you have brought forward that are things that may continue to help. I've told you we're $800,000 short in 2020 to make our budget work. We'll do everything we can to reduce that $800,000 so we don't have to take money out of our reserves to help supplement it. And with that, I'm going to step down as chair and make a motion that the resolution 2019-09 to levy an increase to the certified tax rate for Carbon County Municipal Services be passed. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn.
We need to discuss.
Oh, hang on.
We need to discuss.
We have one more item.
There's one more item. You're welcome to leave if you like. The next item on our agenda is to discuss the adoption of the 2020 budget, Resolution 2019-10. Is there any discussion?
No. Motion to approve, adopt the 2020 budget and Resolution 2019-10.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you for coming.